Hey everyone, Aspie Drummer here. Thanks for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Get your notifications when I put up some new videos. I'm working really hard to bring you some interesting stuff. Everyone knows these guys, Rush. Well, today we have a special interview with Donna Halper. She was the DJ who helped put them on the map when she was working at WMMS in Cleveland. Now, today's interview was an hour long. We spoke about some Rush, we spoke about life in general, and we're going to see how this goes, and we'll probably do another one. But stay tuned because this is a really good interview with Donna Halper. Thanks for watching. So, how was your day overall? How was your birthday?
Don't even ask. So first
Really?
of all, we need to tell people so that they won't think they're going nuts. It's like there are people who are going to see this and go, didn't I see this before? And didn't she look different? Well, yeah, see, I'm a year older, okay? And when you're a year older, everything changes, all right? So I get a different hat, I get a different blouse. I mean, just everything is different when you're a year older. No, what happened was when we recorded this the first time, for some reason, and God only knows, I mean, it's the Zoom universe, but there was something wrong with the video. I'm
Yep.
hoping, and so is John, that everything will be kosher this time around. And let's give it a shot and see
Hey,
how it works. Baby
it's looking
Yoda
great.
was so disappointed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
was I. But truth be told, yes, I had my birthday yesterday, and now I am officially a year older, but still young and cute.
Well, you know what? You must be in the same you must have the same genes as Benjamin Button.
I gotta tell you, and I've said this to people before, and for people that know me,
Yeah.
my mother, God rest her soul, died young from cancer. But
Mm,
if you looked at her, she looked like 15 years younger than she actually was.
really?
Every single person in my family, both sides, baby faced. Okay. The genetic hand that we were dealt, not so good. But at least we
Mm.
look good.
Well,
So,
you do look
you know what
great. You look
Fernando said? It's
marvelous.
better to look good than to feel good. And you look marvelous. So I don't know. I mean, I've always been baby faced, have not had any work done or anything. I mean, what you see is what you get. So yeah, I mean, it's I guess I don't know. You tell me, do I look 77?
No, actually, you know what? When you told me how old you were when we spoke
I was only
last,
76 then. I was just a
I
spring
was
chicken.
I was shocked because I was expecting early 60s. No
How
joke.
old are
No
you?
word of a lie.
How old are
I'm
you? Tell the
I'm
truth. How old are you?
I'm 49.
Still young and cute.
Thank you. Yes, I am. I'm gonna be young at heart forever. How's that?
That's about it. But no, I really do believe that there are some people. I'm moving my screen around here so I can see myself better.
Cool.
Um, I really think there are some people who just age gracefully.
Yep.
Okay, others not so much. And I mean, it's not always chronological. I can name you some politicians who just look like, oh my God, they should be in the old age home. And I can name you other politicians who are the same age, and yet they look just, hey,
Yep.
they're going to go out running.
Yep.
No way of predicting. And you can't
Nope.
tell by looking.
Nope.
And you always, people have these stereotypes of, oh, you look a certain way, so therefore. I have a friend who lost his hair when he was like 30. Okay.
Wow.
So, I mean, he was bald from the age of 30, and it made him look much older. And he was very
Yeah.
sensitive about it until such time as he finally just said, hey, you know what? This is how I look, whatever. Anderson Cooper of CNN talked about that. I mean, he went gray when he was like 27.
Wow. Eh?
It's just a genetic thing in his family, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know other people who have pretty much never gone gray. My mother's hair was always sort of like salt and pepper, but
Hmm.
more black than white. And I
Yeah, yeah.
mean, yeah, she was in her 70s, but didn't look it. So there it is. But long story short, if you're tuning in and saying, I think I saw this, no, it's not you. We just decided that we'd try for a better version. So
Yeah.
this is us trying for a better version.
Well, so far so good. You're coming in crystal clear. I can actually see you clearly. There's no blotching anywhere. So,
Um,
you're still, oh, look at that face.
I'm
You do have
telling
the
you, it's a
baby
face
face.
that
Look at
only
that.
my enemies could. Oh, wait, my enemies don't love it. So
Well, you know what? Haters will be haters. And
that's
you know
about
what?
it. Haters
And
gonna hate, grifters gonna grift, and
exactly, exactly,
life in the big city.
exactly. So,
So I hear, now I'm sure this isn't true, but I hear that you're a fan of Rush. I just, somebody told me that. I mean, people are saying, all right.
I'm not
So,
sure.
so let me
I
ask you
couldn't I
very
couldn't
quick, and I realize this
I
is
couldn't tell
your
you.
interview,
Who are
not
they?
mine, but I'm always curious. How did you come to Rush? I mean, you had a vision one night, or somebody introduced you to them, or how did this happen?
Well, my mother was a musician herself. She was a vocalist and she played accordion. So here's the weird thing is she sang country western, but she listened to rock. And yeah, and growing up in the
Does
70s,
not even surprise me. I
yeah,
cannot tell you how many people ask me all the time, well, what kind of music do you like? And I'm like, depends on the day of the week. There's some days I'm interested. Sometimes wow, I haven't played any jazz in ages.
yeah,
Other days it's like, give me some metal. Other days, a little folk rock would be sort of nice here, a little
yeah,
singer-songwriter action. If you saw my YouTube playlist, you would be like, what? You know, I
pretty
mean, it
eclectic, is
goes
it?
the gamut from everything from like old style folk music from the 60s to hard rock from a couple of years ago. And it
That's cool
really
though.
does depend on the mood I'm in. There's some songs that
Yep.
God, I haven't heard them in ages and I really want to. And then there's other songs that I played them when I was a DJ and I liked them then, but if I never hear them again, that'll be fine. And then there's other songs that they've just stood the test of time. They sounded great then, they sound great now. I played them. I've
Yep.
never been sick of them. I'm like that about Spirit of Radio, okay? I could hear Spirit of Radio every day. It would be fine with me. Doesn't bother me in the least. And I'm not saying that because, well, yeah, Donna, they put you in a cartoon, so therefore, I said, well, you know what? I've never been in a cartoon. My enemies say I should be a cartoon because I am a cartoon. But the truth is, I just like the song. And the song has always spoken to me. It has always said to me, this is what has happened to radio.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But
That's
back
an
to your
important
story.
subject.
So, did your mother turn you on to Rush? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, what had happened was, well, she had a big collection of albums at the time, vinyl, and one day she put on this song, and I didn't know what it was, and
What
I went,
song was it?
oh well, it was Limelight. That was the
There
first
you go.
song that I was introduced to Rush, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but I just loved the guitar riff
Yep.
at the beginning. It just got
Yep.
me right away. It's just
Yep.
one of
Now,
those
see, I'm
songs
a
that
lyrics person. For me, it was the lyrics, okay?
well, yeah,
Because what Neil was saying is something that many of us have thought a million times. The whole thing about, I can't pretend the stranger is a long awaited friend.
yeah.
I watched people when I was in broadcasting and we'd be at parties and stuff, and I'd watch people come running up to each other like, oh my God, babe, it's so good to see you, and they just kiss them on both cheeks. And then the person would leave, and it was like, oh God, what an that person is, and I can't stand them. And I'm sitting there going, You just hugged him, you just kissed him, you just said, "Oh my God, it's so great to see ya." And
Yep.
Neil just couldn't do it.
No.
If Neil didn't like you, he didn't want to be rude to you. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but
No.
I did kind of meet him a couple of times. And I do know his family and this and that. But my point is, I'm not coming from, oh, I read it on a blog. I'm
No.
coming from, I observed Neil on a few occasions. And
Hmm.
he really didn't want to be rude to people. But he also didn't want to be this like, "Oh wow, Johnny baby, it's so good to see
Yep.
you,
Yep.
babe." That just no, was
Yep.
never Neil. And if he couldn't at least be courteous, he preferred to just avoid the whole thing. He wanted to be authentic. That was important to him. So he wouldn't do the meet and greets. Okay.
No.
He didn't come out and, stand with the fans and shake not because he hated the fans, but again, he wanted to be authentic. He was very willing to hang with people one-on-one, two-on-one, have a little dinner, have a drink, this and that. But the whole thing where every night you pretend the stranger is a long-awaited friend, nah, he
I
just
get that.
couldn't do it.
I get that 100%. Myself being an Aspie, I'm like that. I'd rather be with one or two people. And yes, sometimes I do a lot of crowd stuff if I'm doing a charity thing or something. But man, I tell you, it is devastatingly exhausting at the end of the day for me
And see,
to
I'm the
put that
same
mask
way.
on.
I am very, and people don't believe this about me, but it's true. I am very shy. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, for people that have seen me up on stage talking to like 6,000 people, they're like, "What do you mean you're shy?" But that's working. I know
Yes.
how to work. I know how to put on the performance. And I don't mean
Yes.
that in a fake way. I'm
No.
saying it's my job, it's my
Yep.
occupation. So,
Exactly.
yes, I was delighted to be on stage in November with Getty. Getty's a friend. I love him dearly. There's nothing I wouldn't do for him. It was great to be on that stage in Cleveland. The crowd gave me a standing O. That was wonderful. I was delighted. But if you had invited me to an after party,
Yeah.
I would have been the one sitting in the back of the room hoping nobody noticed that I was there. Because if I'm working, I know what to say to people. If I'm just socializing and I don't know the people, I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. I just don't have any social graces whatsoever. Okay.
And that
I
makes you
know how to
you.
do the performance. I know how to be courteous. I know how to shake someone's hand. But in
Hmm.
terms of socializing, I've never been good at it. I feel so much better with the people I know as opposed to 10,000 people in a room and I don't know who any of them are.
Yeah.
If I'm the keynote speaker, then yes, I know what my role is. I get up there. I'm a good public speaker. Some of my stuff's on YouTube. You can judge for
Hmm.
yourself. I'm not bragging.
I've seen it.
I'm a good public speaker. I can give a talk. But can I socialize? Can I make the small talk? Can I talk with strangers? Nah, I'm not good at it. And if you've seen me in that context, you've probably been surprised. Like, why isn't she interacting with people? Because she's scared, because she's afraid, because she doesn't want to say the wrong thing, because
Yeah.
she really has been shy all her life. True story. Part of me
And
that most people don't know.
and that's where Limelight is the one for you because of, like you
Absolutely.
said, you
That's
can't
my point.
pretend a long
I just,
awaited
when I heard
stranger.
those lyrics, now see, I already knew the band. So, I mean, there you are. But I'm saying if I didn't know the
Mhm.
band, I would have been like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's me. Thank you. Yep,
Yep.
absolutely."
I was
You feel
probably,
like you're in that gilded cage, like
yes,
everyone
exactly.
has an
Yep.
expectation. And I know what Neil's talking about. Online, I've seen people trash him and shame on them for doing it. Okay. And this is when he was still with us. I saw people trash him because, well, he didn't come out and sign autographs. Pardon me, he's under no obligation to come out and
No.
sign autographs. He just played his butt off for 3 hours. Do you know how hard that is? Well, you know, because you're a drummer.
Yep.
Okay. It takes a lot out of you. And then you want him to like come out and sign autographs for 3 hours. He can't. He just can't. And there were people that were so unforgiving of that. And
That's
I
sad.
never understood it. Nuts to them.
Well, you know what? They are obviously not a true fan if they're going to act like that, because I've seen that online too, where some people were specifically talking about there was a post going around in some of the Rush groups. This drummer might play with them. Getty's thinking about reuniting and doing Rush.
No, he isn't. He never said it.
I said, you know what, guys?
Never said it.
If you're a true fan, you would know that this is pure BS, and you would know that there's no way that it's going to happen, because you know what? They said it themselves. After they were done, it was done.
Go watch Beyond the Lighted Stage.
That's all they need to do.
When Getty said, if there's no Neil, there's no Rush. I take him
exactly
at his word. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, agreed. People can change their mind. I've said on more than one occasion, oh, I'll never do X. And then, of course, a circumstance comes along when you have to do X. And I'm not talking about a bad thing. I'm saying if you had told me, for example, when I was in college, oh, yeah, you're going to go on and get your PhD. I would have said, yeah, right. Because I just didn't enjoy the whole scholarly thing. I was a kid. I just wanted to get through it, get the bachelor's, get the piece of paper. Bye. Let me go off and do my career, okay? But the idea that I would write a 365-page dissertation, not me, thank you. Not interested. And yet years later, circumstances change. And sometimes you do stuff you never thought you'd do. So I understand if Getty said, we're never going to play in Ottawa, okay? Just to pick a city. We're never playing there. And then a few years later, an opportunity arises, and suddenly, oh my God, they're in Ottawa. But the truth is, Getty feels the loss of Neil deeply. And I say that not just as someone who defends him, because I don't need to defend him. He can defend himself. But I say that as somebody who has watched, who has observed, who has been behind the scenes with him, who has been on stage with him as he read from his book. He is still deeply, deeply upset over the loss of Neil. Will he go on? Sure. Will he collaborate with Alex? Sure. Does he feel like he still has some performing left to do? Sure.
Yes, he does.
But go back and re-listen to all the interviews he's done. Nowhere did he say, hey, we're interviewing drummers and we're ready to get back on the... Never said it. What he said was, yeah, we might do such and such. We might collaborate on some things. We might go into the studio and write some songs. The operant word there is might. Okay? And in saying that, yes, he had fun doing the thing with the Foo Fighters, and fun is not the right word because you're talking about a tribute to someone who passed. But I'm saying, yes, he enjoyed being back out there. He enjoyed playing again. Come on, he's a musician. But you go home that night and go, got to get the band together again. Nope, did not. And there is not one interview where he has said that. And I wish the fans line in their own desire to see Rush reunite. I wish they'd give Getty the space to do what he needs to do and to show proper respect to Neil. May he rest in peace.
I can't say it better than what you just did.
No offense. It just irritates me.
I wrote down in the comments, if you were a true fan of Rush, and if you truly knew Neil and the other guys, you wouldn't be posting this garbage.
They were friends. They were friends.
There's random people.
One of the things Getty said And I saw the book tour as a person who
Yeah.
sat in the stands, and then I also saw the book tour as a person who was on stage. So I've
Yes.
sort of looked at life from both sides now, you know?
Yep.
Hey, good lyrics. I'd have Joni Mitchell singing. No, wait. I think I'll have Judy Collins singing. Joni wrote it, did she not? Both
Mm-hmm.
sides now. Great song. But
Yep.
however you look at it, I've seen it from both perspectives.
Yep.
And listening and participating. Geddy has never said anything different. He has said that he and the guys were friends. He said the way that they were able to stay out there for all those years, be on the road, be in hotels, be through good times, bad times, was
Hmm.
because they were friends. And he said what really made the friendship work, they could make each other
Yeah.
laugh. Okay?
Exactly.
And when Neil passed, something changed. Okay. And I say what changed is the laughter was gone. You can't laugh about this. There's no way to laugh about it. So,
No. Of
would Getty like to play some more? Sure, he would. He's a musician.
course, it's his
But
life.
when I see the online, which I've been seeing ever since the band retired, okay? I saw it when various bloggers and even a couple of talk show hosts that do online internet programs,
Yeah.
YouTube stuff, they say, oh, yeah, he's getting better. No, he isn't. Now, will he ever? I don't know. I'm not Yogi the mind reader. I
Yeah.
have no idea. I don't know what's in his mind, okay? But I do know that he isn't auditioning drummers. And I
No.
do know that, yes, he might like to do some collaboration with Alex, does not know what that would look like. They're possibly going to do some work together, and
Yep.
that'll be great. And I wish them well,
Oh
but
yeah.
I can't see them going back out on the road with any frequency. Would they perhaps bring in a guest drummer and do a performance for charity?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I could absolutely see that happening. Okay.
Yep.
But I really think everyone needs to kind of slow their roll at this point.
Thank you
It's
for
just like,
saying
just
that.
everyone
Yep.
just calm down. Just
And it's a
we'll see
message
what
to the
happens.
viewers.
Let's let Getty be Getty. He's
Yeah.
finishing the book tour. Let him
Let
just
them. Yes.
do what he
Yes.
does.
And I tell the viewers, you know what? If you really want to know what's going on and how they were, read all their books.
Yep,
Go get Getty's book, My Effing
yep,
Life. Go read it
yep.
and
Good
really,
book.
yeah, read the book. You'll know, you'll get the facts, right?
And a lot of the Q&As, including the one I did,
Yep.
are online. So you can see Getty answering these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been asked repeatedly if he's planning on going back out there again. He said the same thing. He said, yes, he would like to. Yes, he thinks there is still some, shall we say, some music left in
Yep.
him. Yes, he loves playing the bass. Yes,
Yep.
something reawakened in him when they did the Taylor Hawkins benefit.
That's right.
Yes, he'd like to do something with Alex,
Yep.
but the operant word there is something.
Yeah.
And it's not a
Exactly.
plan. And
No.
when it is, I'll be delighted for him. He's
Oh,
a friend.
absolutely.
I want the
Absolutely.
best for him. But I also want to give him the space to do it his way and whatever works for him and his wife. Okay?
They've gone through a
Because
lot.
he and his wife have a very good relationship. It's a rock and roll love story. She has her career, he has his career. They've been able, since the band retired, to spend a lot of time together to do
Yep.
some stuff they hadn't done before. He's got grandkids now. I mean,
Yep.
he was able to be with his mother. God rest her
Exactly.
soul. He was
Yep.
there. He would have lunch with her every Saturday, from what I believe his sister told me. And I keep in touch with his sister, who's a very nice person.
That's
And
awesome.
the truth is, there are certainly things he might like to do musically,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Well,
don't know what they are. And I'm
me
not here to
being
give you any great revelation. So forgive me
no,
for beating a dead horse,
you're
and
not
let's move.
beating a dead horse. It's an important message that we have to get out there, and that's why I brought it up. And me, myself, being a musician myself, the music never dies within us, right? It changes, and who we might do the music with will change, but it never dies.
But see, I
And
can relate to that, all right?
yeah,
I miss radio every day of my life. The
yeah,
saddest day of my life was when I could no longer be in radio on a regular basis. I mean, yes, I still get on. I'm on people's podcasts. I'm a
mm,
guest on various people's radio shows.
yeah,
Obla di, obla die. It's all very nice, but it's not the same as
no,
having my own show. It's not the same as being able to break new music. It's not the same as having that power and influence. And I don't mean power and influence in a bad way, like, oh, yeah, I'm the queen of everything. I'm not talking about that. I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
that in Spirit of Radio, it talks about an era
yeah,
when radio broke those hits. People ask me all the time, could you discover Rush today? No, I really couldn't, because there is no one powerful radio station like WMMS was. There's no one powerful radio station like WNEW FM or
yeah,
WMMR or KSHE or KLOS, stations that were like, oh my God, I just got my record played on that station.
yeah,
I'm a success now. There's
yeah,
nothing like that anymore. You got some people doing Spotify. You got some people doing whatever the remains of Pandora are. You got some people
yeah.
trying to get it on satellite. You got some people doing their own YouTube videos. That's all very nice. But if you're
It's true.
trying to have this one central place that can make or break you, it no longer exists. And that's what they
No,
were talking about. The begin the day with a friendly voice. There was that spirit in the air. There was that music in the air. And when you got played on your favorite station, and when you're in the car and you're hearing your song on your favorite station, it was just like having $1,000,000. It was such an important thing. And
it
now
really
it's gone.
was.
Now
I'd
it's
like to
gone.
touch on that for a
Yeah,
second, if I may, because you're going to
please.
relate to this. So I'm on blasterradio.com with John Milkey, who used to be a DJ in a radio station, a local radio station here in Ottawa. And about 10 years ago, well, the big media company started downsizing, and he was one of them who got the boot. And then he started, well, he's like, I love radio. Like, I can't stop radio. So he started his radio station online because, well, as we know, licensing for, getting any sort of frequencies is
Hey, my
extremely
dream is to
expensive.
own a radio station, and my
Yeah.
birthday was yesterday as we're taping this. So if anybody wants to buy me a radio station, call me. I'm here. But the truth is,
No,
nobody can afford it, including your
no,
humble servant. I
no,
am not fabulously wealthy.
no.
I'm being fired. So I'm like
Yeah.
really, I'm looking for work. Hello.
I get it. I
But
get
the
it.
truth is, even when I was like completely not a problem, I know where my next paycheck's coming from, I still couldn't afford to buy a radio station.
It's expensive. And
It really
now
is.
this week, that same company did out with a lot of people. And
Oh, yeah. Oh,
what
yeah.
they've done is they centralized everything now, where you have one DJ, one station going across to
Oh,
three,
that's the whole
all the
problem. And when
provinces.
I lost my gig, when I lost my radio job back in the early 2000s, okay,
Mm,
I was a radio consultant. I had clients all over North America, and I was good at what I did, okay?
mhm,
And then I also did some broadcasting. Media consolidation gobbled up a whole bunch of my clients. Every single thing, people are downsizing, they're firing the announcers, they're voice tracking, they're syndicating, they're taking what was originally a live and local station and
mhm.
turning it into like a clone that can be heard in like 20 other cities.
Yep.
And that live and local begin the day with a friendly voice gone. You
Gone.
don't
Yep.
know that friendly voice anymore, and he or she does not know you. So,
Nope.
yeah, I'm not surprised that you have an internet station because it's about all you can do. But
Yep.
even with internet stations, it doesn't get the
No.
attention, the
Oh
reach, the
gosh, no.
power,
No,
the
no,
the
no, no, no.
status. I'm not
Nothing.
being
It's
insulting to you. I'm sure yours
no,
is
no, no,
just
no.
wonderful.
Nothing
But
comes close
but it's
to
not the same.
no.
It's not the same.
No. Let's go into, since we're talking about now and we're talking about how things are now, let's do a bit of R40 and go backwards. How's that
Okay.
sound to you? You
Hey,
know?
it's your show. Whatever you're
Well,
doing
I
sounds good to me.
one of the questions I have for you is, well, yeah, yes, I'm a fan of Rush. I've been for, since I was about 7 or 8
I
years
think it's
old.
important for you to tell the truth about that. I think it's very subtle that you're a fan of Rush. I mean, that picture in the background. I mean, I can't read it. What is it?
It
It says the
says
same thing as like these guys. Yeah, those guys there.
looks like them.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It kind of looks like them. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, in today's music, in the ever-changing world of music and how things grow, we look at Rush nowadays. Do you think that Rush's music still has an impact on today's generation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know how I know this? How I know this is that yesterday was my birthday, and about 1,000 people got in touch to wish me a happy birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me bragging. The
No,
vast majority are Rush fans, okay?
well, of course.
And the vast majority of the Rush fans are not all people who are 107 years old. There are people from every single age group, every demographic, hundreds of different cities, hundreds of different locations, different countries. I've talked to people who learned English so that they can understand Rush lyrics better. Look at all
That's
the
awesome.
online groups. The online groups about Rush are not just like old fogies talking about the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone came to Rush at a different stage in their life. There are entire families of Rush fans. There are parents who have brought their kids into Rush. When I would go to the concerts, when I went to R40, okay, looking at the audience, you had female Rush fans. Oh my God, women like Rush. There were teenage Rush fans. I find people finding Rush even today because of YouTube, because of online radio stations, and because of friends. People will just be like, oh my God, I did this series of webcasts with a wonderful group of people, the Rush Deep Dive, and we're on the Rush Deep Dive talking about the band. And in the comments section are like, I just discovered Rush about a year ago, and I wanted to ask you about. That is not an unusual experience.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not unique to Rush. I love Rush dearly. They're
Yep.
friends. I'm delighted that I was a part of their story. I'm delighted that we've kept in touch for 49 years. But when I
Wow.
was a DJ, I'd play a song by the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And this is years later, okay? The Beatles have been
Yep.
like broken up since forever.
Yep.
And somebody would inevitably call in. Who's that band you just played? Are they new? Because, and it's not that people are stupid. It's
No.
like people pay attention at different points in time. I
Yeah.
literally had people listen to a Beatles song that they heard on a satellite station or that they heard on wherever. And it's like they never heard it before. Perhaps they
Yeah.
weren't born when it came out. Perhaps they just didn't like that kind of music. Whatever. And
Yeah.
suddenly it just resonates with them. And it's like, what a great song. What band is that? Oh, that's the Beatles. Oh, have they got anything new out?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they found some old tapes and they have, but
Yeah.
literally, have they been recording? Nah, there's a few reasons why they haven't been recording lately, if you
Yeah.
catch my meaning.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same with Rush. Every day, because of the online world, there are new people finding Rush. There are people talking about Rush. There are people
Mm.
for whom certain lyrics didn't resonate years ago, but boy, howdy, they resonate
Oh,
now.
yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I think that as with any great band, and I would say that Rush, not because they're my friends, but they are a great band, okay? I think with any great band, the music stands the test of time. Okay. I am
Yep.
not a huge Rolling Stones fan. I
Yeah.
really am not. I never have been. But there are some Rolling Stones songs that I loved in the 60s and 70s, and they still sound great now. And when I hear them on the radio, I'm like, oh my God, that's a really great song.
Yeah.
Forget how I feel about the band. That's a really great song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in my car with somebody and they're listening to it. It's one of my students. And they're like, wow, what song is that? I can't get no satisfaction. Wow, okay. And
Yeah.
this is a kid who was like, not even born when that song came out. So, yeah, it happens all the time. Do
It
I think Rush
does. It
stand the test
does.
of time? They already are. They already are
Yep.
standing the test of time,
They
and new
are.
people are finding them all the time. And I continue to believe that we'll be having this conversation. If I'm still around, we'll be having this conversation a decade from now. People will be, is that a new band? It's a really good band. Because the truth is, when rock and roll first came out, said Donna, who was actually around when rock and roll first came out. Now, agreed, I was a little baby, but yeah, I was around when rock and roll first came out. And as a media historian, I can tell you, people predicted that rock and roll would be a fad. It wouldn't last. It wasn't great like big band music. It wouldn't
Yeah.
stand the test of time. And yet, here we are in the year 2024. And there, for all the problems with radio and for all the problems with corporatization and media consolidation and blah, 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 there's still some great music coming out. There's
Oh,
still
yeah.
some great performers. There's still some great songs. And there are still some bands that have stood the test of time, and Rush are one of them.
I couldn't agree more. That's they're timeless, is what they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no other way to describe them, but timeless. And speaking of time, going a little more further back, you were in LA for the last concert. Am I correct?
Actually, no.
No? Okay.
I was in Boston for the R40 tour,
Okay.
and I blogged about it.
Yep.
And I wrote a blog post about what it was like being there. A friend of mine named Annie, who is a rock journalist from Cleveland, she came in to see R40 in Boston. A
Hmm.
bunch of us came in to see R40 in Boston. I was backstage. I hung with Alex. I I didn't get out to LA, okay? I
Mm.
do know some people who did. So the one thing I can say, and I've got the lanyard to prove it, is that yes, I was at the R40 tour. I was one of the privileged people who had the opportunity to see that last tour, and they would have done more dates. They really would have.
Yeah.
But Neil's tendonitis, at that point in time, I
Yes.
don't think anyone knew what was going to happen with respect to cancer or anything else.
No, it
Okay.
wasn't even
But
diagnosed yet.
we do know, and it's pretty well documented, that his tendonitis was really getting bad to the point where they didn't even know if they were going to be able to do the dates that they did.
I know.
Okay.
Yep.
Because Neil didn't want to put anything other than his best out there and
Exactly.
never mailed it in. And if he couldn't play at the level he wanted to play at, they were not going to do the gig. So, yeah,
Yep.
they wanted to do more gigs, but it just wasn't going to happen. So, yeah, I do
No.
consider myself privileged that Boston was one of the gigs that they did. Now, the time that I was out in Los Angeles, that's when they were inducted into the Rock and
Yes.
Roll Hall of Fame, because that year the induction was on the West Coast. Normally, it at that point in time, sometimes it was in New York, sometimes it was in Cleveland,
Hmm.
sometimes it was in East Hotzenplotz. Who knew where it was going to
Yeah.
be? But that year, it was out in LA. So, yes, I was in Los Angeles
That's
in
awesome.
2013. To see them inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should have been done years ago. Glad I was there. And yes, I was in Hollywood for the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and that's something that I and a couple of
Yes.
very loyal fans from St. Louis, the Purdy brothers, and a couple of other people, we worked real hard to get them that star. And
Yes,
if
I read
anybody
up on
says,
that.
oh, anybody can get it, you pay your money. No, 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 no. You have to go in front of a committee. You have to make your case for why you're relevant. You have to prove that you're important, etc., and etc. So yeah, I was at those events, but I saw R40 in Boston.
Yep. And that's one feeling. I'd like you to describe one feeling you had when the show ended, knowing that this was going to be your last time seeing the perform. Give me one feeling you felt.
Um, Heartbroken, but grateful. And I mean that sincerely. Heartbroken in that there were so many fans who were not going to be able to see them live.
Yeah.
But grateful as in what an amazing body of work they left us with. And when I say they left us with, nobody knew what was going to happen with Neil at that point. Okay, all we knew about was the tendonitis.
Mhm.
But what a large and impressive body of work they left us with. What a privilege to have seen them as many times as I saw them over the years, to be backstage as many times as I was backstage, to be a friend of the band as much as I was. I was eternally grateful, but I knew it was the end of an era. And anytime you know it's the end of an era, it makes you sad because you know you've seen greatness and other people aren't going to be able to. Now, will they be able to see the concerts, on video? Sure. Will they, buy the DVD or download it or this or that?
Yeah.
But it's not the same thing
No. Nope.
as being there. So
No,
yeah,
it's not.
so it broke my heart that it had to come to this, but I understood. Stuff happens. They're getting older.
Yep.
Things happen, health happens, life happens. And I'm grateful that I saw what I saw and that I was able to be part of it. But it still made me sad. In fact, when I blogged about it, I talked about how when Alex and I were together before the show, we didn't even talk. We just hugged. It was
Mhm.
like there was an old song called "The Words Get in the Way."
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, the
Yeah.
words get in the way. We both knew what we were feeling. We both knew the nostalgia, the various other kinds of emotions, the gratitude and the sadness. And we just didn't say a word. We just hugged. We just hugged. And, I'm still in touch with Alex. I'm very grateful for that.
He's such an
But
awesome person.
yeah, just a very nice person.
Yeah.
And Getty is too. And I'm glad that I keep in
They
touch with
all
him,
were.
mostly through his sister, but I'm glad that I keep in
Yeah.
touch. Bottom line, yeah, it was very mixed emotions that night. Very mixed
I can
emotions.
imagine. Now,
Did you see them? Did you see them anywhere?
I saw Roll the Bones, I saw Counterparts, and Vapor Trails.
Yep.
And all three were just
They're
mind
amazing
blown.
live performers. They
Yeah,
are
they're
really amazing
outstanding.
live performers.
You
I've seen
cannot.
a lot of bands that
Yeah.
kind of mail it in. That was never Rush. They
No, no,
never
no, no,
went
no.
through the motions.
They are
Even when
one of
they
a
did
kind.
the same show, the thing with the rotisserie
Yeah.
and the chickens and
That was
but they
amazing.
but the special effects might be the
Yeah.
same, but they always played it different. They never mailed it in. That energy was
Yeah.
different every time. It was like
Yepers.
they were just having fun with it. And I'm sure some nights they weren't. I'm sure they had colds and fevers and this and that. I mean, come on.
Yep.
You can't be out on the road all that time and not get sick
No. Well, of course not.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But my point is that energy, that was consistent. But they never seemed like robots up there. If you saw
No.
them live, you never felt like, oh my God, did they seem bored? They never did. They caught
No.
that spirit from the audience and they just played it back. They loved doing what they were doing.
You know what it is about Rush that I really, that as a musician and as someone who's a bit of a stickler when it comes to music, and I'm not trying to impure on anyone, but one of the things about Rush was the fact that they played their instruments all the time. There was no backing tracks,
No.
with vocals or like some people do, right? And some people talk about Neil, how serious he was. I said, well, let me tell you something. I'm a drummer, and it took me a long time to learn to play the Rush stuff that I do play. And I'm going
Oh
to tell
yeah.
you something. It takes a
It ain't
lot of
easy.
concentration for me to just to do
Yep.
Spirited Radio. Man,
Yep.
my brain is going,
Oh
200
yeah.
miles an hour
Absolutely.
just to stay ahead of everything, right? So I said, I would rather see a band that puts on a good show musically than a band that's jumping around on stage doing cartwheels and
And the
having
other
to
the
use
other thing
backing
that's
tracks.
interesting is this was a giant family. Okay.
Yeah.
I usually sat in the mixing booth or whatever it's called with Howard
Yep.
Burns,
Yep.
and watched him do the magic. I watched him do the lights. I watched
Yeah.
him do the special effects. The guy was a master. I'm serious. It was
Agreed.
such a privilege to watch him. And I'm saying it was kind of like a well-oiled machine. They just knew what needed to be done and
Yeah.
they do it and it worked beautifully. And
It
to
did.
watch them from the early days to up to the present, to watch how they grew, how they embraced new technologies, how they made it work, how they
Yeah.
made changes when there needed to be changes, and yet how they always went back to Working Man. Now, I
Always.
could be wrong, but I think Working Man is the one song that was just a constant throughout the decades. There's a
100%.
lot of songs that came and went on the set list, okay?
Yep.
But Working Man, and it's funny too because like it wasn't even Neil's song,
Nope.
but he embraced it because he knew how much it meant to the fans and he was never going to play it in any way other than with 100% intensity.
Exactly.
And that song to me exemplifies the band. They were, they will always be Working Men. They were guys who came from not privilege,
Nope.
not money,
Oh gosh,
not
no.
status. They were working class guys from a middle class neighborhood. Their parents had hopes and dreams for them, and it wasn't for them to be musicians.
Yep.
But when they became musicians, their families could not have been more supportive. And
Oh yeah.
they took that musicianship and they ran with it and they made it their own, but they never came from anything other than hard work and practice and wanting to do it
Yep.
right. And I admire that, okay? As somebody who also is a working class kid,
Yeah.
okay? I really admire people who didn't have it handed to them, who didn't have like, oh yeah, my daddy owns this and that, or
Yeah.
my mommy is fabulously wealthy. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy. If you're wealthy, I didn't just insult you. But I'm
Exactly.
saying, if you don't come from a famous name, if you don't come from a pedigree, if you don't come from the right neighborhood where you went to the right schools, people are going to look down on you. And you're going to have to work your way up and show them you got what it takes.
Exactly.
That band, in their early years, they were literally on the road like 360 days a year. Okay? They barely ever got home. They were out there constantly. And I
Yep.
watched them in those early days when they were still just trying to get it right and watching them in their later years when it was just much smoother, much more professional, but they never forgot where they came from. Does that make any sense?
Of course it does. And speaking of where they came from And speaking about working man, I want to touch on that subject about John Rutsey.
God rest his soul. And if I see one more person write online that he was a drug addict, I am going to throw something at the computer. Really, I
He was a
am.
typical kid.
Oh, God, I've talked about this before. Forgive me for those that have heard me talk about this, but may
Yep.
I get off on a rant for about 30
You go
seconds?
for it. Give
Poor
her.
John Rutsey had the misfortune of being born too soon. If he were born in our current era, he would have done the little finger stick thing. He
Yep.
would have like taken care of his diabetes and it wouldn't have even been an issue. And he would have been, if not with Rush, with some other rock band. He was a very competent drummer. He wasn't fancy and schmancy, but he was very, very competent. And he could
Yep.
have latched on with another band. But he was a kid who did not take care of his diabetes. He did not have a problem with drugs. He was a diabetic who did not take care of
Yep.
himself because at the
Exactly.
age of 18 or 19, who takes care of themselves? Okay, I
Not many
did, but
people.
I'm not a diabetic. And I don't know if I were, if I would have always followed the doctor's
Yeah.
instructions, because you know how kids are. Kids think they're going to live forever and that it doesn't apply to them and everything's going to be fine because
Yeah.
that's just how kids are.
Yep.
So there he is playing in a rock and roll band, and suddenly they become successful. Before it wasn't that big an issue. He was right in
Yep.
Toronto. If he didn't take care of himself, his mother could yell at him. You
Yep.
take your medicine, Johnny. you know? But if you're out on the road,
Yep.
you ain't got your mom or your dad saying,
No.
you take your medicine,
Yep.
Johnny. You're just going to party and hope it all works
Yep.
out. And it
Exactly.
wasn't going to work out. And they knew it,
No.
and he knew it. And sad to say, if this had just been the modern world, it probably would have. Now, would he have been the right drummer for Rush? No. Even back then,
Mhm.
Geddy and Alex knew they needed a songwriter. They
Yep.
needed somebody who could take them to the next level. They
Yes.
were trying to go in a more progressive direction. John Rutsey was perfectly happy doing the 3-chord rock and roll that they'd been
Yep.
doing in the clubs. He could have
Exactly.
kept doing that forever. But
Yes.
that's not where the band was going. So you
But
couple the health problems
yep.
with the lack of, a change of direction,
Yep.
it was not going to work out.
No.
But that still doesn't mean that people online should mock him or say,
No.
oh, that first album is so primitive. You wouldn't have had the second one if you didn't have the first one.
And
If you
without
didn't have
John,
Working Man, if you didn't have Finding My
yep.
Way, you wouldn't have gotten to Fly By Night or
Nope.
everything that came after. And that's why I think the guys in the band were perfectly comfortable continuing to perform
Yes.
Working Man.
Yes.
It's a good song.
It
God
is.
rest the soul of John Rutsey.
John was instrumental
No pun
in
intended.
getting Rush to you, okay, to
Absolutely.
WMMS, because he had the connections with
Yes.
people, with the bar
Yes.
owners, and he got the
Yes.
gigs. He was the spokesperson for them. I've listened to interviews about him when he talks about how hard it was to get a record in Canada and stuff like that. He
Oh my
worked
God, they
with
couldn't get
Ray.
arrested in Toronto radio. I mean, it was
Yeah,
one of the first things their manager said to me was like, we're being played in Cleveland? We
yeah,
can't even get arrested in Toronto. I mean,
yeah.
nobody even knows who we are.
No, exactly.
But the thing is,
Yeah,
Bob Roper knew who they were. Bob Roper of A&M of Canada back then,
yeah.
the record promoter that
Mm-hmm.
sent me the record. Bob Roper had heard them in a club, and he thought they had talent. He didn't necessarily agree with the decision of his record label to pass on them. And because he had seen them and heard them and talked to them, he felt like he should send it somewhere and hope that it would get some airplay.
Kudos
But
to
the thing
him.
is, and I said this to Geddy, there's no predicting this, okay? I could play that record. I'm a music director. I could play a record. I can think that record is just amazing. crickets from the audience, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I can play another record that I think is kind of meh, and the audience goes wild. There's no predicting. When I played Working Man, I thought it was a Cleveland record. I thought it would be a perfect record for Cleveland. I thought the audience would like it. I was right. Good for me. I get a cookie. But the point is, there have been so many times over the years when all of us music directors have gotten behind a band and we were sure they were going to happen, and they didn't happen. So in this case, it was a confluence of a lot of things going right. I'm glad I played a role. I'm glad I championed the band. I called other radio stations and told them to play Rush. I really did, because I thought that band had potential. I never knew we'd meet. I never knew we'd become friends. I'd never, when I first met Rutsey, very shy. Didn't hardly say a word. None of them did. Okay? Their manager told me, don't worry, Donna, we won't let you down. Okay? But the guys were like, oh my God, we're in Cleveland, and you can look down on Cleveland. But imagine you're 18, 19-year-old kids who have been trying so hard to get airplay. You can't get airplay in your hometown. And then suddenly you find out, and you don't know why and you don't know how, but you find out that this big city in the United States is playing your music? Really? This is like, wow, this is kind of mysterious. And the next thing you know, you're getting signed to an American record company? Wow. So this was all just like kind of overwhelming at first.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just amazing to me to be a big sister to the band in their early years. And then they didn't need a big sister. And to watch them get out there and do what they did and grow and change and yet never forget me. And not just me, never forget the people that were there for them at the beginning, to continue to keep in touch with those people, because that's how those guys were and still are.
They're humble.
Yeah.
They really are.
But they're loyal. But they're loyal.
Absolutely.
When I was at the book tour, okay, when I came to Boston, and when I say when I came to Boston, I don't live in Boston. I live about 20, 25 minutes away from Boston, okay? When I came to the book tour, I came with no expectations. I came with my notepad to take a few notes in the event that I wanted to do a blog post about it or do a freelance piece or something like that, because I do a lot of freelance writing. I went backstage to see Geddy, as I kind of thought I would, but if he hadn't wanted to see me, that would have been fine too. Come on, these are performers. Sometimes they feel like seeing people, sometimes they don't. I never take it personal, okay? Like after Geddy lost his mom, the last thing I would have expected was for him to want to hang out with a bunch of people. And just, come on, he lost his mom. Give him a rest. Give him some space. But in Boston, yes, I asked his manager, can I come backstage and say hi? And the manager said, sure. And I went backstage. I said, hi. We talked. It was great. We hugged, this and that. We kibitzed about family, etc. The next thing I know, his manager says to me, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I figure he's playing another gig in Boston, like maybe he's doing 2 nights on the book tour, So I'm like, I don't know, what do you need me to be doing tomorrow night? And she said, well, can you go to Cleveland? And I'm like, excuse me? She was like, yeah, he's speaking in Cleveland tomorrow, and that's where their career started, and we'd like you to do the question and answer in Cleveland. It was like spur of the moment. Somewhere there is probably someone who was originally scheduled to do that Q&A who probably hates me. But my point is, I knew nothing about it. It was one of these spur of the moment kind of kismet sort of things where it's like, there I am, I'm hugging Geddy, we're talking about the old days, we're kibitzing about family, and suddenly, click, tomorrow night, Cleveland, you should be there. You should be the one to do the question and answer. And I'm like,
what a privilege.
Okay. And it happened just like that, spur of the moment. Okay. So I was delighted. but I was also very surprised. It wasn't something I was expecting. I'm glad it happened, but it was just one of those amazing moments where it's like right place, right time, and right people. Because there again, this is how Getty is. He is loyal to those who have been loyal to me, to him rather. And when he got up on stage, one of the things he said was, Donna, I wouldn't have a career if it weren't for you. And I'm like, Getty, that's not true. It's a very kind thing for you to say. This is on tape. You can find it on
Yep.
YouTube. Um, I said it's a very kind thing for you to say. But as I just said to you in your video here, I mean, I played the record. I had no guarantee that it was going to work out. I believed in the band. I thought the band would work out, but there's no predicting. So I'm glad I did what I did. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad I fought for you, but I'm delighted that it did work out. And it's very rare and very unusual for people to keep in touch this long. And I am profoundly grateful for it.
It shows exactly who they are and
Absolutely.
who you are as well, because you have, I have to say, in the times that we've spoken, Donna, you have been the most amazing person. I can understand why they're drawn to you, as you know, at first as a big sister, but even now they're humble, and they're drawn to you because of who you are. You've got so much goodness in you. You're an honest person. You're humble
I
yourself.
just try to do a mitzvah wherever I can. Okay. I mean,
That's
I
important.
wear this Jewish star because
Yep,
it's part of who I am. Like
that's good.
Getty is not religious. It's
No,
widely known that Getty is not religious,
no,
but he is very proud of his heritage. That's why the anti-Semitism that's in the
yeah,
world right now worries him to death.
yes. He
That's why
spoke
he
about
is
that in a
so
meeting.
depressed
Yeah,
about anti-Semitism, because he thinks of what was done to his own family and he worries about it. But we're talking ethics. I wear this star because it is part of who I am. I
hmm,
am a former chaplain. I am, I'm not Orthodox. I don't even pretend to be Orthodox, but I
hmm,
am very Jewish identified.
yep,
Okay. Do I like every single thing that every single Jewish? Of course not. And you don't like every single thing that
yep.
every drummer does. I mean,
No,
people are people.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
The truth is, though, that for me, being Jewish is about mitzvah. It's about doing my part to try to make the world a better place. Mitzvah, as I've said before, is badly translated as a good deed, but that's not what it means. It's a positive action that makes the world a better place. And every day you should try to find your mitzvah. And you don't have to be Jewish to do a mitzvah. Anyone can do a mitzvah. For
I
me,
like that.
being loyal to my friends is a mitzvah. Trying to make the world better is a mitzvah. Fighting against prejudice is a mitzvah. Being healthy is a mitzvah, because if you're not healthy, you can't get anything done. So, long story short, if I'm even remotely a good person, which I don't necessarily think I am, I try my best, but my point
Well,
is, my
I beg to
focus,
differ.
my focus is on doing a mitzvah every day. And I've got the feeling that that's what Getty's about. Getty might not put it in
Yeah,
religious terms, okay? But what Getty is doing is he's trying to do a mitzvah every day. When he donated a whole bunch of sports memorabilia to the
hmm,
Negro Leagues Museum, he
yep,
didn't have to do that. He could keep it in his house and look at
yep,
it. But he felt like the world needed to see this stuff. When he
yep,
speaks out about anti Semitism, he could keep quiet, but he feels like the
yeah.
world needs to address the rise
True.
in prejudice.
It's very
Okay?
true.
When rock stars speak out about issues, whether you agree with them or not, at least they're trying to take a stand and in some cases putting their own careers at risk.
Yeah,
Okay,
very
because
much
the
so.
haters gonna hate.
Yep.
And you come out and say, well, yes, I believe X, Y, or Z, and suddenly out come the haters. Oh, I'm never buying your record again, and I'm
Yep.
never going to
Yep.
concert. I'm like, yeah,
Very
fine.
true.
Yep, I'm canceled. Yep, there it is. So Getty is a loyal person. He cares about the people that have been loyal to him. He got a real kick out of the fact that I spoke with his mother and spoke Yiddish with her, and he just thought that was exceedingly cool.
Oh, I
But
can
my point
imagine.
is, he's a family man. He knows that he's good at what he does, but he's not really like, hey, don't you know who I am? That has just
No,
never been him.
no,
And when
no.
I'm with him, that is never him. Is he perfect? Come on. Has he ever had a bad day? Of course he has. But he's never claimed he's perfect. He doesn't want to be up on a pedestal.
Nope.
He just wants to be Getty. And what I like about him is how success has never spoiled him.
That's
And
true.
I've never been like that level of successful. I mean, yeah, I've been widely known about some things. I've been quoted. I've been here. I've been there. I've been in the New York Times. I've been in the Washington Post. I've been on TV. I've been on radio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not famous to the degree that Geddy Lee is. On the other hand, yeah, I've had an interesting life. I've met a lot of celebrities, been on a lot of podcasts and talked to a lot of wonderful people, yourself among them.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm very, very grateful for those opportunities. But I always feel like there's more I could be doing. There's another mitzvah for me to do. There's something else I can do to make this world a little bit better. And I want to stay out there and I want to keep trying to find it.
I
So
love
I'm
that
thinking
about you.
that
That's
way.
so cool. In closing,
Because we do have to close because it's
yep,
closing time.
it is closing time. But in closing, what would you tell the Rush fans right now if you had something to say to them?
Thank you. And that's what I would say. Thank you. And I've said it before. Thank you. Why thank you? And I said it when I was out at the concert, and I've said it when I was at the book tour. I keep calling it a concert, but it is sort of like a performance in many ways. When I was out at the book tour, that was the first thing I did, was I pointed the microphone to the audience and I applauded them because they have remained loyal. They have remained faithful. They have remained fans. I am profoundly grateful for the love these fans have for Rush. I love Rush. They're my friends. I care deeply about them. I care deeply about their families. I've had the privilege of meeting them. That's very, very cool. But my point is, we're in a very superficial industry. We're in a very superficial life.
True.
Friends come, friends go. I've had a lot of people reach out to me because they wanted a favor. And when they found out I couldn't do them the favor, they trashed me and stopped talking to me. Well, can you get me backstage at the concert? And when I said, no, I really can't. Oh, oh, I could show you some. It's just
Yeah,
stunning to
that's
me.
not right.
Can you get my tape to Getty? No, I really can't. Well, you're up. So there's that. But there's also fans that are true fans. And they're like, sure, Donna, I understand. I know you can't,
Yep.
if you took mine, you'd have to take everybody's, and that would
Of
be a real
course. Of
problem.
course. Of
So,
course.
thank you for being a friend. Thank you for listening. Thank you for answering our emails, because I always try to answer emails. So I would say to the fans, you have remained loyal for decades. You continue to be loyal. You care about the same people I care about. You love their music. You love them as people. You keep Neil's memory alive. You are honorable people. Some of you are righties, some of you are lefties, some of you are centrist, some of you are atheists, some of you are religious, but you all have one thing in common. You are Rush fans. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to you, Donna. You are an outstanding lady and a person that the world needs more of. And
Imagine
for
a whole
one,
bunch of me. That would be awful. Ew.
I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cute.
I think one of me is quite enough.
Well, maybe look like little
And,
gremlins running around.
well, speaking of gremlins, let's just hope that the recording turned out okay, because
It did
you know
actually.
you do this
It's still
whole
perfect.
thing and then
Yeah,
you find
it's
out, oh, gotta do
oh,
it over. But you know what?
crystal clear.
I think this conversation went well. I hope the
I loved
fans
it.
find it interesting. We ran over some familiar ground, but we also ran over some ground we hadn't run over before.
And
And I
that's what
think
I
that's a
like.
good thing.
I like that, and I appreciate you so very much, Donna. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time out to speak to me again. And you know, you've taught
Hey,
me
it
a
was so
lot.
nice. I decided to do it twice.
Well, thank you. But you've taught me some
Thanks
stuff
for
this
having me,
week.
big guy. Let me know when it goes up and let me know what people think.
We'll do that. You take care of yourself, Donna. Have yourself a
Much
good evening.
love.
Much love to you. Bye-bye.